angle the piece of the puzzle the right way so it just slides in nicely, fits in perfectly, that happens because there's a very clear understanding between those pieces of the puzzle of exactly how they fit in. One way requires an understanding of the positioning of you, the positioning of the people around you, and how you interact or touch on each of those people around you. Success is not an all or nothing. Success is not black and white. Success is a continuum. It's a spectrum. And it has a whole bunch of different criteria attached to it. Have you ever thought how much your business is like a jigsaw puzzle? If you haven't, stick around. I'm going to show you exactly why it is and how it will help you and your team to get a much better hold on what's going on in your business.
If you want more time, money, freedom, and have a business that's not reliant on you, then you're in the right place. Each week, Mark Creedon, along with some of the very best business minds in the world, will take you through simple, practical steps you can take to create the business you always wanted. From his own practical experience, Mark will show you how to work less, make more, and get the business you always wanted, the one that you deserve. Now here's your host, one of Australia's most sought-after business coaches, Mark Creedon.
Welcome to the latest edition of the Mastermind for Business podcast. This podcast is for service business owners and professionals who just feel like they're trapped in their business. They love what they do, but they feel they're enslaved to it. Every week we share with you some very simple tips or tricks that are designed to get you freedom, because that's what it's all about. Recently, I had the privilege of doing a bit of a presentation with a great client of ours, and we spoke about, hey, g'day to the team at BAPL, but we spoke about the concept of why business is like a jigsaw puzzle. And I want to share that with you today, because if you get this and you share this with your team, you're just going to watch their eyes open, and for them to get, this is where they'll get a true understanding of how they fit into it. So the reality is, why is your business like a jigsaw puzzle? Well, because every business is made up of a whole bunch of parts. But what we often do is we get people to understand what their part is, so that's one piece in the puzzle. But it's very, very difficult. Imagine I gave you a 2,000-piece jigsaw puzzle, and all I did was just tipped all the pieces on the floor and said, right, you need to make a jigsaw puzzle, and this is the exercise we did. And the very, very first question that they asked me was, what does the picture look like? Oh, you mean like the picture on the top of the box? Yeah, it's a good point, right? So could you put together a 2,000-piece jigsaw puzzle without a picture? Probably. I mean, not me. Could you do it? Yeah, you could. But how much easier will it be if you've actually got the picture on the top of the box? So you know what the end product is, you know what the end result is. And so the question I've got for you is, if you've got a team and you say, yeah, no, the team pretty good, they know their roles and responsibilities, okay, sure. But do they know what the picture looks like on the top of the box? Imagine that your business is a jigsaw puzzle in a box. And even if people know what piece they are, what role they play in the business, have you actually taken the time to share with them what the big picture looks like on the box? So if we're talking about the comparison between business and jigsaw puzzle, the number one thing I would say is you got to show them the top of the box, right? They got to see what the big picture looks like. Now, if you don't know what that big picture is, well, then, that's the first thing you got to do. You got to stop and go, well, I actually need to know what the picture is, because without me knowing it, it's impossible for me to expect them to know it. So number one, let's show them what the picture looks like on the top of the box. Number two, imagine that everybody now they know what the picture looks like, and they know what their piece is. The thing about a piece in a jigsaw puzzle is it only fits one way. So we did this great little exercise where I asked somebody to come to the front of the room, and I gave them a piece of the jigsaw puzzle, and then I blindfolded them and asked them if they could put that piece into the puzzle, if they could complete the puzzle. And the way they did that was by using their hands to feel the shape of the puzzle, and then to feel the shape of the gap, and to then, manipulate the piece around and get it in the right position until they could drop it into place, and they did it perfectly. But what that taught was that whilst everybody has a role to play, they best fit into the picture in one way. Now, that's not to say that some people don't perform a number of roles, some people aren't multi-talented, some people don't multitask. That's all very true. But the reality is, in your business, everybody, every division or every person fits into the business best to maximum capacity or maximum potential one way. And you have to know which way that is. And then the third thing is, you have to understand the reason that puzzle fits in a certain way is because of the way it interacts with the other pieces around it. It's not because I want to put it in that way. It's not because I'll just choose the way I put it in. It can only go one way. And the reason it can only go one way, because it's got to fill in the gaps based on the pieces that are already there. At each point, just take one piece out. It can only go back in a certain way. So if you look at that as individuals within your business, they can only fit back into that jigsaw puzzle that is your business one way. If you were to take, if it's 1,000 pieces, you were to take 20 pieces out, now that's a team, they can only make up that 20-piece picture if it was all 20 pieces in one space, not randomly selected all over the puzzle. If they can only fit back into that picture in one way, and then those 20 pieces put together only fit back into the big picture in one way. So individuals fit one way, a team fits one way, and that's all dependent and dictated by the interaction between those pieces and the rest of the puzzle. I hope you're picking up what I'm putting down here. So the concept is to understand, if you look at your business, number one, you show your team the picture on the front of the box. Number two, you've got to understand, and you have to help them to understand, that they fit in a certain way. And the reason they fit in a certain way is because of the interaction they have with the pieces of the puzzle around them. So they have to actually get to know the people around them. They need to get to know what other people do in the business. They need to understand the impact that they have on other people and the impact that those other people have on them. Because, you've got a little piece sitting out from a neighboring puzzle piece. You can't just, grab scissors and cut that off to squeeze yours in, because it'll leave a space somewhere. And so if you manipulate or angle the piece of the puzzle the right way so it just slides in nicely, fits in perfectly, that happens because there's a very clear understanding between those pieces of the puzzle of exactly how they fit in. There's a very clear understanding of the relationship and an understanding that each of those edges of the piece that you've taken out fit in against the other edges in a particular way. So when we did this exercise, it was really quite eye-opening, because the as a team, the whole team, so that's business, the whole puzzle, they were then able to look at themselves in terms of teams within that, and they were able to go, okay, how do we as a team contribute to the pieces of the puzzle? And then they would look at themselves individually. Well, do you know what? I just sort of, I just sit at my desk and do my job. Well, actually, you don't. You sit at your desk, your workstation, or your position at home, or your Zoom screen, or whatever it might be. You are a piece of a puzzle which can only fit into that business effectively and efficiently in one way. And that one way requires an understanding of the positioning of you, the positioning of the people around you, and how you interact or touch on each of those people around you. So it was kind of a really eye-opening exercise. And what I want you to think about, if you're listening to this podcast now and you are a member of a team, I want you to think about that. Well, hang on a second. I don't just sit at my place and do my job. How does my job impact on everybody else? How does it impact on the clients? How does it impact on the client journey? How does it impact on the outcome, or what the big picture? So the business is the picture on the front of the jigsaw puzzle box. How does my piece interact on that? And am I trying to jam my piece into the picture the wrong way around? Now, if you are a leader or a business owner, the same thing applies. Are you trying to jam your own position, your own piece of the puzzle, into the puzzle the wrong way around? Or are you doing that to someone else? Are you trying to hammer it like a square peg into a round hole, right? Are you taking people in your business and you're just doing things the wrong way round? Have a think about that, and let's see what that brings for you as you rethink the way that your business looks in the overall picture on the outside of the box. Across the break, I took some time to read, and I love reading biographies and autobiographies, and I'm in the process of reading the autobiography by Bono from U2. But over Christmas, Caroline gave me John Farnham's autobiography. I read the whole thing across the break, and it was a great read. I mean, he's a bit of an Australian institution, right? And there's a couple of lessons that I took out of it that I want to share with you in today's episode. The first lesson is around success. In the 70s, when John Farnham was pushing his career on, it was a general consensus that to have great success in the music industry in Australia, you had to have success in the US. And so he went to the US and he desired that success. He wanted to have the success that would have come from an American market. But when he got to America, he didn't like it. He loved the people, but he didn't like the environment. He talked in the book about a friend of his getting mugged or held up or something like that. And it just scared him, and he thought to himself, this is not where I want to live. This is not where I want to raise my children. And so he was prepared to forego the success that would come from an American career in order to achieve what he wanted to achieve on the other side of the equation. So I ran a webinar recently about work-life harmony, right? We say that we've done an episode in this in the podcast as well. We say that the concept of work-life balance is kind of bullshit, because work-life balance assumes that everything's even and you end up kind of even Stevens, and which is just nonsense. And anybody listening to this podcast now who is in their own business or has a senior management position within a business, they know what I'm talking about. They know it's nonsense to think that things work in perfect balance. They just don't. But what they do is they work in harmony. And in order to get into harmony, you have to understand that it's a bit of a sliding scale. And sometimes work will take more, sometimes home will take more, and you just have to have this give and take mentality. And you have to be really real and honest with yourself about it. And so what he did was he went, you know what, I want this success, but asked himself the question of what is the price that I'm prepared to pay for it? And the price that he wasn't prepared to pay was to go and live in the United States. And I think that this time of the year is a great opportunity for us to kind of look at that and ask ourselves that question. What's the success I want, and what's the price that I'm prepared to pay for it? Is the price that you have to pay okay? Is it too high? To be brutally honest with yourself, I think that the lesson that came out of reading that for me was that, whilst he wasn't prepared to pay that price, it didn't deprive him of success. So it wasn't an all or nothing situation. So if you're looking at something now and you go, yeah, I would really love that success, but, I don't want to pay that price. But if I don't pay that price, it means I'm a failure. And that's absolutely not the case. I mean, John Farnham's amazingly successful. He's financially successful. And by all accounts, reading the book, he's a really great guy. But what I admired about it was that he made a decision around what success meant and what the cost was and what he was prepared to pay and what he was not prepared to pay. And so as you plan out your time ahead, whether you're doing a 12-month, 2-year, 3-year, 5-year plan, it's worthwhile just stopping and thinking, well, right at this point in time, this is the success I want. What is the price that I'm prepared to pay? And is that price fair? Am I actually going to do that? And if you are, then you can commit to it. And you can commit to it knowing that that's the price. And you can share with the people around you that this is the journey you're about to embark on and knowing that that's the price. If, on the other hand, you were to look at it and go, do you know what, I'm not prepared to pay that price, then that's where I think it's super important to realize that does not amount to a failure. Like, success is not an all or nothing. Success is not black and white. Success is a continuum. It's a spectrum. And it has a whole bunch of different criteria attached to it. What might be success to me may not be success to you. I always remember years ago when I was doing sort of one-on-one coaching, and I had this client come to me and they said, I want you to help me to be more successful. And I said, what does that mean to you if you've got some revenue targets or size of your business or whatever it might be. And to them, it was they wanted to be famous in their industry. It was just help me to be famous. I don't care about how much money I make. Now, that's what we did, and they were famous in their industry. I mean, they made a ton of coin in the process, right? But that wasn't what their driver was. That was a consequence, almost an unintended consequence, but a natural consequence nonetheless of what it is that they were doing in terms of their fame within that particular industry. So it's important, I think, that if you go, I'm not prepared to pay that price, that it's still okay, because it doesn't mean that I forego success. It just means success needs to look differently. So what John Farnham did, and this is the lesson I think we can learn from this, is he went, okay, I'm not prepared to pay that price, but I am prepared to pay this price. And that is, I'm prepared to give my all. So he talks in the book about how he gave his all in every performance. So whether he was performing in front of 20 people on an RSL in the early days, whether he was performing in front of 20,000 people in a stadium, he gave his all. He left nothing in the reserve tank, left nobody wondering, right? I wonder if he could have done any better than that. And he speaks in the book about that was his philosophy, was to get out and give your all for a number of reasons. One was because people had paid for it and he respected that and believed that it was his obligation to give his all. But two, he believed that that was kind of who he was, and that was his definition of success. His definition of success was not so much about how much money do I have or what car do I drive or where do I live, even though I'm sure all those things are still very real, although he talks about his favourite Porsche that's been sitting in the garage for 20 years and not touched. But for him, it was, this is my definition of success and this is the price that I'm prepared to pay to achieve that. So if you look at something which is, that's a massive opportunity, but I don't want to pay the price for that, it then doesn't become an all or nothing. You go, well, in that case, I'm a complete failure. It's just, all right, I'm not prepared to pay that price, but I am prepared to pay this price. So with this price, what can I get? It's a little bit like when I was a kid, you go to the, I'm going to sound really old here, but I go to the shop and you buy a bag of lollies and you get, for 10 cents or 20 cents, you get you a huge bag of lollies. But anyway, so you go, all right, well, I want a bag of lollies. This is how much I've got. Well, I can't get much for that, but what can I get? Well, I can get a few of these things. And so I may not have this level of success, but I can have that level of success instead because I'm prepared to pay that price. And I think that was the great lessons that came out of John Farnham's book for me, was to understand what success meant, what it looked like, and what was the price that he was prepared to pay for it. If you want to have a look at that book, I think it's just called John Farnham, but it's an amazing book and well worth a read. John Farnham, The Voice Inside, in fact, is what it is called. Well worth a read. It was a fantastic book. So autobiography. It was written by John Farnham and also Poppy Stockwell. So great book and some really great lessons from it. We move into 2025 and we're looking at the year ahead. What I wanted to do in these first couple of episodes was just to talk to you about how you can kind of plan ahead and what are the things that you can do. And we spoke in the last episode about getting promises to ourselves and moving forward and letting go of the past, having a clean slate. In this episode, we looked at the concept of what John Farnham can teach us about success, how we can view success differently, and what that actually means, and giving your all. And if you can follow these really simple processes, I think that it will map out a much better year for you. Understanding that your business really is like a jigsaw puzzle. I guess the other sort of the last point I want to make on the jigsaw puzzle, I think we'll just go back there for a second, is that as much as pieces only fit in one way, a picture is not complete if it doesn't have all the pieces. And so one of the things that's really worthwhile doing is you sitting down and taking stock of your business and go, who are the pivotal people in my business and what am I doing to look after them? Because as we've seen in past episodes, we've spoken to Gary and Dion from Talent United about recruitment. We've seen that it costs so much more in terms of money, but also in terms of effort, blood, sweat, tears, and impact, etc., to let talent walk out your door. Understanding that everybody in your business is a piece in the jigsaw puzzle. Some are easy pieces that are easy to replace. Some are just pivotal pieces that are going to be really difficult. And so now's a great time to sit down and take stock and go, well, those pieces that are pivotal pieces, what am I doing to look after them? How am I taking care of them? And what is my plan across the year to take care of them? And then finally, the other thing is to remember this. You are a pivotal piece in that jigsaw puzzle. And so what are you doing to take care of yourself? At the end of last year, I joined Ollie Wood's Body Reset program, went through a gut reset, looking after myself, thinking about what I eat, what I drink, exercise that I do, the workouts that I do. Now is a great time. This is not New Year's resolution stuff. This is now promises to yourself for the future, because it's not just for 2025. You know, as Ollie always says, where do you want to be in 30 years' time? Well, still alive, hopefully, but where do you want to be in 30 years' time? And I think this is a perfect opportunity to look at what does your business look like in terms of a jigsaw puzzle? Who are the pivotal pieces of that jigsaw puzzle? What are you doing to look after them? What does success mean to you, and what's the price you're prepared to pay for it? And you know, what do you want to do with it? Are you giving your all to achieve the success that you want to achieve? And then how are you looking after you? Take some time to take stock now about how you're looking after you and how you're going to continue to look after you across the rest of this year. These are the things that we talk to our clients about all the time in our mastermind program, metropolemastermind.com.au, as we help our clients to achieve freedom. That's what we want. We want to see them spending more time in their life and less time in their business. If you'd love to learn how you could get a day a week back, can you imagine? What would you do? What would you do if you had an extra day a week that you could just spend doing whatever the hell you wanted to? Then metropolemastermind.com.au, we'd love to hear how you would do that. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, like it, share it with your friends and family. If you know people in business who you think would benefit from it, share it with them so that we can continue to embark on our mission to help service business owners and professionals to spend a whole lot more time in their life and less time in their business. This is Mark Creedon. Until we chat next, please make sure you spend time with those who matter most.
Thanks for joining us on the Mastermind for Business podcast. If you're ready to have a business that you're not a slave to, check out metropolemastermind.com.au or have a chat with Mark and the team at allthews, see what's possible.today.